All right, we're recording. We are live. We have a limited time.
Wow.
Crazy early morning thing. So Paul reached out to me a while ago, and this will be it'll be a sort of a rando. I don't feel like I'm particularly great at randos. We might end up talking about religion and culture, but it will be good either way. And I I'm trying to think. When you really were like on my when you entered my salience landscape and I knew who you were, I'd maybe met you virtually not alone breaking the fourth wall before that, but was at Midwestuary because we were in the same group.
Midwestuary, yes. I had
And
not broken the fourth wall before Midwestuary, except incessant commenting.
okay, all right. And what is your handle? Are you comfortable
I'm,
sharing your handle?
I'm Green Man, right?
Oh yeah. I knew that. I did know that because I remember when I pieced that connection. It was at a live stream a few days ago or something, and I was like, "Oh," because I always like your comments, and I'm like, "Oh, that's Paul." Okay, cool. All right, great, good connection. It's always funny. I don't know if you had this experience when you realize who someone is, you meet them in real life, you have the face, and then you connect it to the handle, and you're just like, either those two things congru or they don't congru, and then you're just like, wow, why is that? That's such a weird phenomenon.
There's a fear of identity in your fear of association of the internet stuff with your actual identity, which I feel like is more a youthful thing, where you're not comfortable with your identity. And so I took on Green Manorite for a forum probably in 2006,
Okay.
uh, which was it was a political board, unfortunately.
And
uh, it was a Notre Dame political board. Anyway, so and then that stuck for many years now. Um, and at some point you're commenting with the name and it's just up there, and then you're like, okay, no, I need to own some of the things I am saying. And
yeah,
so I don't have my full name up here, but I think Paul Allen is sufficient. Um,
listen, I've
more,
always I've always been super. I mean, I have somewhat of a generic name, but I've always been pretty. I think basically, I've never lived in that life where I have the prophilicity for me has always been in his like me fully. Like I mean, I guess I'm just trying to remember. I had a Twitter account back in the day and it wasn't my name, but I always used my name. I've never understood, although I'm beginning to. I think there are good reasons for a degree of anonymity online for sure. But I haven't understood. Anyhow, I don't want to talk about this too much because I
yeah.
want to do a little bit of a rando, get a little bit of your story. I'm not. I feel like Seabax and Chad were kind of the inheritors of the Paul PBK rando, and I think they do a great job at it. I don't think it's particularly my gifting, but we could do the tell me about the house you grew up in, or give me a brief bio of the most important points of your life.
Okay. So the house I grew up in was I'm the oldest of five kids. My father is a theologian until
Okay.
recently, until
Okay.
more church history than anything else. And uh, grew up in a Catholic charismatic community. So like speaking in tongues in the Eucharist. Um,
Okay.
and
Did it have a particular group identity or name or anything?
it did. It did. I, it does.
You don't have to share it.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, so I was really young when it was Servants of Christ the King in
Okay.
Steubenville, which will mean something to some people and absolutely nothing to most people.
Yeah.
Um, and so there was an incredibly tight, intentional community until I was like people would move from out of town to come be part of this community. There was a lot of activities. We went to church Sunday mornings, praise and worship gatherings Sunday nights. There was like men's groups that women's groups that everyone was participating in, and spiritual direction stuff. And so
it's kind of big Eva Catholicism. A little bit. It had that feel, like all that stuff. It's not just like straight Catholic services.
It was really weird and good in many ways. So the bishop came in when I was 7th and 8th, or 7 or 8, somewhere in there, maybe 8 or 9, and basically brought in a cult expert to see if the group was a cult.
Wow, look at that. Self-criticism, self-analysis. Yeah.
It was, I mean, this is someone else's story. I was a kid, but really from my perspective, a lot of my friends moved away. They really, the church, we went to a much smaller church with a much more conservative pastor. And I think a lot of people were really angry, rightfully so. I mean, not rightfully so. It was difficult for a lot of people, and I understood that, but I didn't get a real explanation until like I was late teenagers on what actually happened. And
yeah, I'm totally curious. What was that?
I think there were complaints about how spiritual direction was being done, and whether it was being done properly, and whether they were putting on people more than they should have. And I think that was the crux of the complaint. And I think the finding was this was not a cult, but here are the reforms the bishop is requiring you to do.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's not a cult, but
here are the things you should change.
Yeah.
Which it was, the liturgies were really beautiful as long as you were okay with guitars and people like really into it.
Yeah.
The image that I have of like mass as a kid was middle-aged guy carrying a baby, holding a hand up and shouting hallelujah, like roaring it. And like that was the vibe. It was reverent but very boisterous. I mean,
yeah, that's such an interesting, because like until I became Orthodox, I had very little familiarity with Catholicism, and even the like I've heard and I've met a lot of people that had backgrounds in the charismatic Catholic movements. And it's when I was an adult, I went to it was like a Reformed Baptist, but like charismatic type church. So like, and before that I had no exposure to that sort of thing. So like, it seems like Catholic and charismatic seems like such a weird mashup, and being Orthodox, it's just like, although I guess the Ethiopian Orthodox get a little wild, but I've heard rumor, but yeah, that's just like a thing that's like, what? It feels like, do you know the history of how that even happened? The charismatic Catholic movement?
I do.
Okay, we don't have to go into that. We probably don't have time. I'm curious though.
I do, and I feel like it's more my dad's story to tell than mine.
Sure. Okay.
Because so my dad ran conferences, like early charismatic conferences at Notre Dame in the football stadium in like the early 70s.
Interesting. Okay.
So until Notre Dame's like, okay, these people are weird, we got to get them off campus. Yeah. But I think there was something kind of in the Jesus movement time. There was really a Catholic Holy Spirit thing happening at that time, and it was really big. And my dad was right in the center of it. So, and then he went to go get a theology degree. And basically, and so of course I studied math and economics.
Okay.
Which,
yeah.
Which is like, my rebellion was I'm not going to run track. That was the one rebellion. I'm going to play soccer and not run track because everyone ran track. And then I am going to not do liberal arts. I'm going to do math.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go to the local college. I'm going to go to the big Catholic college, Notre Dame,
Mm.
and study with real mathematicians. I say that incredibly tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from I took a lot of math classes when I was in high school at the local college, and I respect those guys a lot. But like young arrogant Paul,
Mm.
the old arrogant Paul,
Yeah.
was sort of the rebellion was to go off and do economics. And why did I do economics? It was a philosophy professor who put me uh, on Asimov and the Foundation trilogy early, and it's okay. What are these forces, these unseen forces in the society, and can I math some of this?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that was really intriguing as a 16, 17-year old. And so
Yeah.
I went into college knowing I wanted to get a PhD in economics. I wanted to study macroeconomics. I wanted to understand some of these things for myself. And I did all that. And it's good and slightly disappointing at the same time. You see
As
behind
are
the
many
curtain and
things.
you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we've got. Um, I think defining in college, yeah, college was weird. I was both very engaged in the faith and doing a lot of stuff. Um, so I was sacristan. We had a dorm chapel, so I was sacristan for my dorm chapel probably 3 of my 4 years.
Okay.
So basically, and I would go to daily mass. Daily mass was at 10:30 at night, and so you're studying, and then like late at night, you're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna take a study break, go to mass for for a half hour.
Yeah. So you were
And
serious about like your faith. I imagine in Notre Dame there's a spectrum of people who are like very serious about their faith and people that are just going to Notre Dame.
I was liturgical about my faith.
Okay.
I think I under I understood the importance of liturgy and rhythm,
Hmm.
and maintaining that. I think intellectually I was more materialist.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are. I mean, that's the water we're swimming in. But like when you clarify or I said you're serious about your faith and you said you're liturgical. So would you almost classify that as like a sincerity, authenticity culture thing where you were just like you were a serious person and you knew that these habits are important and you were doing them, but you didn't have like a personal, authentic connection. It wasn't like a relational thing with Jesus kind of a thing, or what? Why are you distinguishing between those two, serious and liturgical?
I that's I think my prayer life was primarily, I mean, these are good questions. I think ethically, like, I had a girlfriend the whole time. We may not have been following all of the rules.
Yeah.
Um, it was Notre Dame. You drank a lot. There was a lot of culture. So Notre Dame, early 2000s, they would have like single sex dorms, but they were basically on campus frats, and
Mm, yeah.
it was aggressive. And so on the spectrum, I was not in in the social, there's like a charismatic group on campus that I was not part of. There was like we're going to rotate and make big good community, and we're going to go kind of move from chapel to chapel. So they came to our chapel once a week, and there was like that time. Then there's 40 people instead of like 10 people at daily mass. And so I wasn't part of that group. Basically, my spirituality was, I'm going to maintain the prayer life through just going to mass, and then I probably did some other things, but the discipline wasn't there. The ethics were developing. And so that's, yeah. And so I didn't, so I guess there's a point to this. The point is the ordinary parish life. So I was sort of living ordinary parish life, but within sort of this dorm community. And it's like, because I grew up in this like extraordinary, we're going to do things differently from everyone else and have this special group that does special things. I think like having an ordinary, like a boring priest doing an okay mass, and then and just sort of going to the routine of this is not extraordinary, this is sort of ordinary Catholic living. So like
hard for a guy in college, a little too boring.
Yeah, and like Opus Dei tried to recruit me at one point, and I don't know if Opus Dei, they're basically they're kind of super Catholics. And they're like, oh, you can get your own spiritual director. We have this own community, and we have the people who are really serious. And the girl who is recruiting, because it's like a girl that recruits you, it's dumb. And her thing was, and I was pushing back, like, why do we want to take all of the good, serious Catholics out of the normal parishes? Because they're the ones who like do the stuff. And provide sort of the leaven to the dough there. And then she said, oh, I'll bring these back to my people, and then she stopped talking to me about that. Like, and I think it was like, and I
there's so many interesting things. I feel like even that, like all these things come up. This is why we talk about rabbit holes. We're like, I'm curious about that. Like, I really want to know what the answer would be or what's the thinking behind it. But we don't have time. We'll have to listen back and do another conversation.
And I think the answer is different for different people. Like,
fair.
My sister's Opus Dei now.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So I'll just go through my siblings. I have 4 siblings. One of them's a religious sister, and then everyone else is married with a bunch of kids. So I have the least kids, or tied for least kids of my family, and so there's something like 15 grandkids, and I have 3. But it's a testament to my parents' faithfulness in a couple of ways. When the whole thing happened with when the community broke down, their posture was, we're here for the church, not the community, and we're just going to keep going to the church. We will rebuild the community on, we don't need to have a big exciting thing to be church. I guess that's a better way of saying it. So they kind of plowed through with the same group, and it was a much smaller prayer group, and they're still with them today. And there's this volatility in your Christian communities that happen, but then there's sort of a faithfulness of, all right, through this volatility, we're we're going to be the source of stability and plow through and not kind of get blown off by the winds of the hurricane that blows through. And so I think, I mean, there's many things I could say about my parents, but I think their faithfulness is the thing which is most faithfulness in sort of these church dramas, which is the most interesting. And they're not quiet people. They will let their opinions be known. They're not going to take it quietly. They will say their opinion, and then they will move on with what's happening, and sort of and take the criticism. And so I think so anyway, go ahead.
And your parents are still Catholic. Your sister's still Catholic, obviously.
Amazingly, everyone's still Catholic.
Okay.
I don't know whether this is excellent catechesis in our youth, or I say that jokingly, but literally my dad would like an hour on Sundays with each one of us, like go through catechism. But also a openness and an ecumenical spirit within the family. Like, yeah, there's other Christians doing good things,
right?
And there's many there's many appropriate expressions of faithfulness. And so, like, and this is one of, like, being super Catholic, I guess I'm the number of expressions within the Catholic Church,
right?
Like, there's going to be Latin Mass people who just like blow me away for this, but that's fine. I think my view is like, I think this is appropriate. I think like Latin Mass is an appropriate. It's appropriate liturgy. It's people. If you are blessed and come to God through that, amen. Orthodoxy, I mean, like, there's many Catholics who use the Eastern rites, and I think the liturgies in Orthodoxy are incredibly beautiful. They're not my tradition,
right?
But I think there's very little difference between Eastern Catholics and Eastern Orthodox on all but like 3 issues.
Right.
And I don't think there's, I think there's, and then you have like the low church Catholic, bad music, like,
plug your ears, Neil.
Yeah, everyone. It's hard to get someone in there under 50. It's like, and those churches are providing for those communities, and the music is bad because it's the 5 old ladies who are willing to sing, who go up there and sing, and they're giving to glory to God in their way.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have like the full choral thing at like, well, University of Notre Dame has a beautiful choral, and that's beautiful. And then you have what I grew up with. We had a conservative priest who was not charismatic, but was like tasked after the whole thing happened with sort of guiding our parish. And he was an incredible homilist and a really holy man. And he would like gently guide the worship leader, like, focus a little bit more on the liturgy and a little less on the extra praise and worship you're sticking in everywhere. It's like, this is the point of things. And, you know, like the charismatic, the guys who are really into it, they really love their praise and worship music, and they could go 15, like the Gloria could go 10, 15 minutes. Like, I don't know. People haven't experienced. You have the Gloria. They sing the Gloria. Like, everyone's singing, raising their hands, really, And then they go into like free praise, praying in tongues in the middle of the Gloria. And like everybody is like singing their own thing together, just pure chaos, which will drive many people over the edge. And then they bring it all back together. And so you could have the Gloria go on 10-15 minutes of just praise and worship, and it's liturgically very beautiful in that like the Gloria is the participation in with the heavenly host and praising God, and these people are really into it. That was their charism, and so I'm gonna get teared up about that. But yeah, but oh my gosh, that's gonna drive some people. And so the diversity of there's good and holy stuff happening there, and there's potential abuses. There's good and holy stuff happening in the Latin Mass with beautiful chorals and potential abuses. And God is big enough for both of those. And he may even be big enough for some Calvinists. I don't know.
Yeah.
I say tongue in cheek.
I mean, it's so, that's so great. I loved what you're saying there, because it is, you have to realize, this is what rigorists, I think, have to realize. And it's why I talk about like Christ, the eternal Tao, and Christologic and all this. You have to somehow have universality in particularity. And that's what allows for this diversity in different groups and different cultures and things that are important. And there will be abuses and there will be strengths. And somehow rigorous, somehow that has to be okay. Yeah.
And I think the institutions, I'm going to get into the muddy waters a little bit. The institutions, specifically the liturgical traditions, which I will say one apologetic thing, which is the traditions which you can see in like 500, well documented, and that are preserved by the Orthodox and to a large extent within the Catholic tradition. Those, like, just from stuff from Justin the Martyr, and you can see all of this from the very early church. These liturgical traditions are an institution, a framework which can drop into a variety of different cultural expressions and different theological expressions, and much like Scripture preserves, something new can be taken and grown from that seed. And so, and I guess why am I Catholic? Why am I Catholic today as opposed to I was grown up in that culture? And that it would be I think there's a fundamental, I think along with sacred Scripture, the liturgy stands next to it, Scripture, as the way we pass on the faith and as that institutional framework. And institutions are the vessels for community, and institutions are like the vessels for worship. It's the people that come and pray within those framings which breathe the life into it. But those frames are persistent and allow us to have that stability over time. Anyway, all right. Stop preaching.
I mean, we're weaving in and out of, I'm trying to write notes. I've never done this before. Listen, I'm trying to get better at these things, but like, that's it. You and I mean, we'll have a side table conversation potentially about institutions. Okay. So you're Notre Dame. So you're at Notre Dame, you stay Catholic, you're liturgical, you're going, you're practicing, and then what?
Yeah, then I did economics. I knew I was going to do economics. I knew I needed a math degree to get
Mm-hmm.
to really be serious within the economics field.
Yep.
So I did like grad prep math, which was rigorous. I was the dumb guy in the room with like 10 actual math geniuses that did PhDs in math or went to do option trading. And
You just had like a minor, or it was just part of your economics training?
no, it was a double. I mean,
Oh, okay.
honestly, like 70% of my time was math. And then I took some economics courses. I got an economics major, but amount of workload, like I was
Yeah.
doing problem sets. Like doing a serious math degree is a lot of problem sets. You, especially if you're not, I, my aptitude for math is much greater than 99% of the population,
I'm sure.
but
Yeah.
you're in with like the top point
Yeah.
point 3%.
At those upper echelons, those
Yeah.
differences seem massive, infinite, perhaps, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I could like go without studying up and through calculus, and then I was very intuitive in some areas of math,
Yeah.
and I was not in other areas of math. Anyway, so
Yeah.
I went. So I was mostly doing math. I took aesthetics and philosophy of art as my fun course. So what I
Nice.
would do to like break up the monotony of math was take philosophy courses.
Yeah.
um, um,
But that probably makes you a good economist, because I mean, economics is kind of, that's what it is, right? I mean, it's like anthropology, philosophy, math, culture. I mean, it like weaves all that kind of stuff together. Anyhow, keep going. Yeah.
yeah,
Aesthetics and philosophy of art.
yeah. So aesthetics and philosophy of art, and why did I take aesthetics and philosophy of art? Um, because that's what I was learning the least about in my other courses,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, my professor really wanted me to go get a PhD in philosophy, and I was a materialist and I really wanted to eat. Um, so
Yeah.
I, so I think he was really disappointed when we started actually talking about like beliefs, and it's like, wow, you're really into this materialism thing. Anyway, so then I went to grad school and I began to understand what economics was, which
Okay.
is really interesting, but academic. I won't talk about the universities because I the guy who took me under his wing, Bert Holt, uh, he passed away a couple years ago, but he was weird because he really loved data and how data was produced, and less theorizing and more measuring.
Hmm.
And a lot of what he had me doing was what a lot of economists do is take very clean data and then build toy models and sort of prove things, game theory stuff, and it's really cool, and I think those guys are, but what he had me doing was more like, all right, how is this data point actually produced, going into like BLS methodologies, and sort of getting and then kind of producing better measures of basic things, um like capital ratios and like things that like like these hypothetical objects, but all right, what do they actually look like in different industries? And it
Mm-hmm.
was not it was a and what you come to realize is it's models all the way down. nobody is Nobody's going around and checking to see what every dollar that everyone is spending, or and now I fill out the surveys on the business side. I know how much care is put into some of these survey answers that economists take very seriously.
Yeah.
Uh, And I'm like, um, and so you realize that there's a lot of messiness in the real world, and you take yourself less seriously as you take the math less seriously because you know the inputs are problematic, and then you come to this place of wonder where it's like, despite all of the layers of error we are adding into our methods, we can still say useful things.
Mm.
and if you care to look at the details, there are interesting stories in like line items on just public reporting that are telling us something important, but the vast majority of economists, that's not true. Most economists don't care about the day-to-day because they're doing their own research. People like me who are public economists trying to say something about the economy,
Mm-hmm.
like people ask what my data source is. What do I read?
Mm-hmm.
What do I read? I mostly read the raw data, like line by line, going through reports, seeing what jumps out to me as interesting, and then just like plotting stuff, and just like muddling through a lot of messiness. And then I think there's some high level stuff, and then I read academic papers that are relevant to the questions at hand, and sort of try to get a sense of what sensitivities are, what error bands are, like stuff.
Yeah.
But so, all right. So in preparation for this, I listened to that Hideous Strength again.
Okay.
And I know that the macrobe is a N.I.C.E concept. And if you haven't read the book, go read the book. It's my dad. It's my dad's favorite book. He reads it every year.
It's people ask me what's my favorite of the space trilogy, and I've read them or Ransom trilogy. Sorry, CS. But I've read them 4 times now. They're the books I've read the most in my life, and I mean, it was probably Paralandra for a long time. It's that Hideous Strength now because that's the whole cosmology and everything applied to Earth, you know. And that's really how I see. Like, I think that's how the world works. It's basically like that book. Anyhow, keep going. Your dad.
Yeah. And we're sitting in the macrobe. I mean, and it's as if I am sitting inside of the cell in your body, seeing these proteins sort of swinging around all around me, and I'm trying to say something about what's happening to the system as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why economics, and maybe it's not a science, maybe it's a philosophy as a result of that, because I cannot isolate an experiment because I'm sitting inside of I am sitting inside of the experiment.
The hard problem of all perception. That's why I say that. You can't extract yourself from being in it. Yeah.
And I think a scientist can create the illusion of extracting themselves from the problem, because like you can isolate something in a lab to a large degree, and then you can observe, at least within that framing. As an economist, there is no way I can isolate myself from the environment in which I am Like there's no isolating the U.S. economy in this particular policy situation and running an experiment on it.
Yeah.
You observe from within, and your methodologies are necessarily you have a different set of rules you have to play by, and it's really a lot about how do you consume a data how do you consume a data when the institutions are changing that are producing the data? Like that's a key problem. And the question I ask on a survey and then report and then becomes this is not profound, but I can ask a question, and now that this is a reported data point, this will change the behavior of the people in the system, which by asking the question, I have changed people's behavior because now they are reacting to the answer to that question, or they're trying to manipulate the answer to that question, or both.
Sure.
And there's a profound humility in the science as such. I mean, if you even want to call it a science. And so I think the reason I entered economics is because I thought there was this clockwork thing that I could really say, and then and then you realize that no, it's not that, it's this complex thing, and you say different things. So so the rest of the story is I come visit your hometown as as doing special projects at the Minneapolis Fed for
Oh yeah, I forgot that.
a
Yeah.
few years. I'm going to say things in vague terms, and then let people read between the lines.
Okay. Lock in, people.
Narayana Kocherlakota was a good man and a excellent economist. He was the president of the Fed when I was there, and he's the real deal. If you brought an issue to him, he would cut to the core of what was happening in minutes, and bring things to at least an intellectual resolution, or understand the problem deeply. With just intellectual magnitude I have not seen before. And he didn't care about status. I was on a special projects team, and I was pretty junior, and he would there'd situations where he'd email me and say, hey, can you answer this question, which I'm getting from people at the Fed? People have this theory. I want you to prove it out or disprove it. And we would grab some data and crank on it and get him a solution in a couple days. And he would take that credibly. There's a lot of stuff, like we were not the elite people at the bank. we were the go actual do quick data projects for the leaders. I would, after living the Fed for a few years, I learned something about institutions and something about myself. I came in with this deep awe of the Federal Reserve System, some of which is appropriate and justified. It's a great institution in many ways.
Are you Ron Paul fans?
And no, and it deals with, and it's only as good as the people who are leading it. It's the character of Nariana was very good for the country through the Great Recession, and he made the institution itself better. And then things changed and I left. But I think also I learned, like, I started doing like reviews of internal models within the Fed, sort of checking people's work, and I burn out emotionally doing that.
Just because you see problems and mistakes that are being glossed over or ignored, or okay, okay, yeah, yeah, it's a bummer. That kind of stuff's a bummer. Yeah,
and there's two ways to respond to a problem that you point out. One, you can immediately go to, we're going to lose face, and this is just universal. We're going to lose face over this. How do we fix it without anybody knowing and not actually changing any of the outcomes?
Yeah. Yep.
And then there's, we're going to take ownership and we're going to fix the mistake, which are inevitable in economic models. But then we're going to make the system more robust by having better institutions fundamentally. So I think, what did I learn from this? I learned, and so I think the reactions to that sort of thing was why I couldn't constantly criticize other people's work, and I needed to like build stuff myself. And so I switched teams and moved to the horrible private sector where there were profit motives. And I went from critiquing to building, and I was substantially happier. I don't know if you caught any of that, Luke. I just was feeling.
No, it was good. I was slightly distracted. I'll be honest.
No, that's fine. No, you have kids, and yeah.
I will listen back to this. Unfortunately, I have a hard out in 10 minutes.
10 minutes. All right. What do you want to talk about for 10 minutes?
So, but I think that's good, because I mean, that's just broad.
That brings us up to where I am today.
Broad institutional corruption. I think what's so fascinating is I
wouldn't use the word institutional corruption. I would just say bureaucratic motives are difficult for truth seeking.
Yes, but you find that in all institutions, which Absolutely. Is why I say things like all institutions are inherently demonic. I think that's what I mean by that, is like they lend, and it's the difference between what you just said, I think, is the heart of it, is it's the difference between criticism per se and creation. Like a culture that's in criticism mode, or an institution or anybody that's in criticism mode is on the way out. Like, it's not lending toward life. If you're in creation mode, building mode, then you're moving toward life. These are broad. Peugeot talks about this stuff.
You need opponent processing within your institutions.
Sure.
And what is healthy is you have a strong creative arm, which is building and creating new ideas and sort of trying to do cool stuff.
Yeah.
And then a safety arm, which is saying, hey, what about this? Have we thought about this?
Yes.
And those are held in tension. And within banking, this is formalized in a bunch of jargon, but which I will not get into. But
we need more jargon in the corner. Give us some
Yeah,
economic.
more banking jargon. That's the worst jargon. But the opponent processing is important. What you see though is you have in some instances very weak creative sides and very strong governance / critic sides, and the critics start defining what the doing side is, to the extent that but the problem is their telos is to critique and constrain, and so when they become too strong,
Yes.
it is they are governing what happens, and their telos is not aligned with the telos of the institution, it's aligned with the telos of the critique.
Yes.
And on the other hand, if you have the box checkers on the critique side, you have the others thing just going way crazy. So like if you go back to like the community my parents were part of, like there was a healthy opponent processing, perhaps where there was too much liberty on one side and not enough constraint. Then the bishop came in and put in a lot of constraint, and maybe I defer to the bishop on that. But I think there's like that tension is really important. So is the institution demonic? This is like, I would say like the opponent processing within the institution has two fail states, and the tension is incredibly important.
Yeah.
And you may maintain the tension and the breakdown, and you fail either direction.
Yeah.
And how do you stay in tension where we like going back to the ransom book? Is it McPhee? Is McPhee the he's the critic that's in Ransom House, and he doesn't believe a thing, and he's Nate.
Nate is kind of a McPhee type character, yeah.
And he's making, and Ransom keeps him there in the room because that tension is important, because there's all this woo going on, and someone needs to,
the rationalist critic.
You need the critic in the room, so you're responding to the critic, and it keeps you grounded.
Keeps you from being a cult, maybe,
or it keeps your cult godly.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
All right. We'll do this again.
I think I gotta shut it down. However, this has been great. Actually, there's tons of. I'm gonna rewatch this for sure. I'll try to get it up on my channel quick. I would love. I feel like we at least need to do a part 2. So let's email about that and try to figure it out. But I think there's a lot of really good things in here that have a lot of relations. I actually listen. I try to do a good job listening. There were a lot of points where like I want to chime in with things, but this is the great thing about listening. I will close off with this and give you the last word. Is because when you listen and really constrain your desire to talk and add in your things, like I feel like my own thoughts were like kind of clarified and purified through things that you were talking about. Like I have deeper resonances with my own conceptions of things just by the stuff that you were saying. So I don't know. I found it very helpful. Anyhow, give us a last word. Let's shut her down.
Heartfelt apologies to any lack of charity to any of the people I talked about. And people are in difficult situations, making difficult decisions, and
yes.
I know they're trying to do their best. And my criticism is probably not fully appropriate. That would be my last words.
You seem like a very good opponent processing, and criticism. Listen, it's a gift. If you receive it as a gift, you're a charitable criticizer, opponent processor. Like, in light of everything you just said, criticism is good when it's
criticism is good. I just like, if somebody listens to this, I want them to understand that I'm not. I can be wrong about these things, and so
yes,
and I don't want. I mean, I think people can be upset because they're upsetting situations. A few of them we talked about, but anyway, all right. Yeah. Happy thing about conversations is they can continue.
absolutely. All right.
All right,
I
thanks.
really got to shut it down. My daughter is ready to go. Great talking to you. Until next time, see you, buddy. All right. End
Bye.
recording. Meow meow.